I've teamed up with my friends over at BTCC Blueprints to make some exclusive Hedge Works Motorsport t-shirts. Now, if you'd like to buy one, you can either get in contact with me or you can visit the BTCC Blueprints website by using the link in the description below. Welcome, Michael Crees, British touring car fan, favourite and driver for BTC Racing. Thank you for coming along, getting involved. How are you doing?
Yeah, all good, mate. Yeah, seems weird always being called the fan favourite. I'm getting used to it now, but yeah, it was. I had an interview yesterday with BTCC, but yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I'm working hard, and obviously announced my deal with BTC for 2021. So very, very raring to go.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a lot to look forward to this season. How would you say your 2020 season went?
Yeah, stuck to the game plan, mate, and delivered exactly what we wanted to do. Set the goals. It's part of what we've been doing from my very short career. We started in 17 in the Ginetta G40, and the goal was to win the championship. And we've done that, and then obviously into 18 with the GT4 Ginetta G55, and the aim again there was to sort of do well and try and win the championship, which we did. And then 19 was the Passat with Team Hard, and the goals were set to be the top rookie with people like Cole Boardley, who I raced in 18, and he was a pro and I was an AM, and Bobby Thompson, who coached me 2 years before that, and Mark Blundell, Formula One driver. So we set the standards quite high, and we managed to succeed that. And then for 2020, we sat down, we looked at the Jack Sears Championship. We knew we were in the Honda. We knew we were in a great team, and the goals were definitely to win the Jack Sears trophy, and we've succeeded in that. So your next question is probably going to be what goals I've got for 2021, and
Exactly. Yep. You guessed it.
I can pretty much say that we sat down and we're being honest with ourselves. I mean, I don't want to have any pressure on myself this year. So, and it'd be silly of me to go, right, I'm going to go and win the Independence or the Drivers' Championship, because I've still got a lot of learning to do. I've still got a steep curve that I need to fulfil. And so I think an overall podium this year is a realistic goal. That's what I need, whether that comes with a reverse grid or a bit of pace that we showed at a few tracks this year, that we could do it on outright pace. So yeah, they're my goals, and regular top 10s, top 15s, top 10s, points finishes. Pretty much every race is where I think I should be, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to ask, with obviously you setting a goal before each season. I remember at the very start of last year, you said you definitely want to win the Jack Sears. How important was that for you to do that?
Massive, mate. I mean, there's a lot of pressure that goes on, and people talk about delivering sponsors, and and you've got to keep yourself relevant, and you've got to keep yourself out there in the shop window, and you've got to set yourself goals, and yeah, all right, you might not achieve them sometimes, but if you don't set yourself a goal, you haven't quite got that end ambition. And it was very important for me to win the Jack Sears. I made a lot of noise about it at the Autosport show, and all the way throughout the whole season. And winning that has definitely helped me get my seat for 2021.
Definitely, and it's definitely something to look forward to. So when did you obviously, when you came into British touring cars, we all talked about how you were such a big fan, but when did you really get into motorsport? When did you find an interest in it?
I've been a massive fan of Formula One, and I'd say more Formula One than touring car. I memean, I live quite close to Brands Hatch, so whenever the touring car was there, I used to go up and watch that. But I've always been a massive fan of Formula One. I never really missed a race, to be fair.
Yeah.
From however I can remember. And my dad was, he used to sit down on a Sunday and watch it, and he just sort of grew into you know, and then I started watching a bit of superbikes and anything that was racing really. And I always had a, you know, passion for it, and I always had the new Formula One games every time they come out on PlayStations, and I even remember back before your time with the old Atari and Grand Prix 2 it was called at the time, and stuff like that. So I've always been into my car games and racing games, and I've told this story a few times over the years. And I was sitting in a pub in Turkey in this sports bar, and it was we were watching the touring cars on the telly, and I was like, God, I just said to my mum, I said, oh, I'd love to do that one day. I said, you know, it looks amazing. And, you know, didn't even, and then about 6 or 7 years later, I'm actually doing it. So,
Yeah.
and that, you know, that was just incredible for me. And going to Ginetta racing in 17 was, you know, I've never been in a car on a track before. Before that, and just to get out there and drive around the iconic tracks of like Alton Park was my first ever track that I raced at, and you know, turned up there, played it on the PlayStation so much, you know, like touring cars or whatever, and yeah, actually getting out there on them sort of tracks was just a dream come true. And then I've just progressed at that level, and yeah, now sort of I put myself on a bit of a pedestal with the fans' favourite thing, and hopefully I can just keep delivering for the fans and all the marshals and all the media that have made it happen for me. So
yeah. Well, it's funny that you mentioned the Formula One games, because we're obviously soon getting a British touring car game. I'm sure you'll be getting that as soon as it comes out, like lots of us will be.
Again, mate, I honestly, like, I sit down sometimes and I just think, you know, like my always my nan and granddad had passed away and that, and I always sort of like think, because when I was brought up as a kid, you know, Scalextrics was a big thing in my household. I've got 4 older brothers. Every year there was a Scalextric, and it built and built and built, and it was, you know, you had all the cars, and my granddad loved his model figures and stuff like that, and he used to collect all these Matchbox cars and stuff. And then like last year, knowing that I've got a Scalextrics car coming was just amazing for me. And then sort of, you know, going on to doing what we're doing and watching myself on the TV and the car, it is mad. Like, for me, it's a bit surreal.
Yeah,
it's a bit surreal, the whole thing. But
yeah, how would you sum up British touring cars?
The hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
Really?
Yeah. It's incredibly difficult. They're the best drivers in the world for sure. You know, you put any of the top boys, Turks and Sutton and all that in the world touring cars, and they will win that, you know, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, they're that good. And for me to come into a situation where racing against Matt Neal, who's been doing it 30 years, you know, it's quite tough, you know, because they know how to position a car on an apex, or to give you a tap here, or brake check you here, or just give you a bit of a door handle here. And, you know, it's all these little tricks of the trade. It's just experience, and you can't buy experience. It's like anything. It's, you know, in my day-to-day job, you can't buy it until you've been there and done it and fixed the problem and stuff like that. So I would sum it up as the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, for sure.
And what's the most difficult part of it?
Delivering the overall lap is tough. You know, you the tyres are great now. I watched an interview with Matt Neal and Jason Plato, and they were saying that there was an era where you had to really manage the tyre, but now pretty much you can go flat out on the Goodyear tyre pretty much most of the race, with a small bit of degradation which you can manage. I think the difficulty is putting on a cold set of tyres, getting the right temps in cool conditions. Like the last couple of rounds at Snetterton and Brands was particularly difficult because
Yeah, of course.
the tyres just weren't getting hot enough, and delivering that lap when you need it. And that is a real art, I would say, and you can only get better at that with experience. And I would say that, and the racecraft. I mean, the racecraft against them professionals, they're setting you up 6 corners before, and they know exactly where they're going to pass you. So it's, when I was at Thruxton racing this year and I could see Turkington coming, that was the first ever time I can call myself a racing driver, if I'm honest, because I see him coming through the pack, and he got up behind me, and within half a lap, I worked out exactly where he was quicker and where I was quicker. And then I could deal with that situation with him putting a load of pressure on me through all the high speed stuff. But then I had to focus on a lot of the slow speed because I was quicker than Matt there in front. So it was the first time I actually drove a car, racing a car, but actually thinking about what I was actually doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that was the first time that I actually thought, wow, I can actually do this. And that's when I felt myself go from an amateur to a professional racing driver.
Absolutely. Was British touring cars, was it how you imagined it was going to be?
And more.
Yeah.
And more. I to be honest, I mean, coming out of Ginetta, 2 years on a bounce, even though amateur racing pretty much, I was thinking, God, this is all right. This is I can do this. This is quite easy. And then you step out with the big boys, and even the first race at Brands Hatch, putting on the slick tyre in the wet, I was quite confident because I've been go-kart. Every time I've ever been go-kart, I've never been on wets. I've only ever been on slicks.
Yeah, of course.
And I was like, yeah, come on, boys, let's put that on. They were like, you sure? And I was like, yeah, it's fine. We're at the back end, we were 27th or whatever. And then drove a great race and come 12th in my first ever touring car race. And I was thinking, yeah, this is all right. This is quite easy. I can do this. And then the second race, it was welcome to touring car, and I went from 12th to 27th in one lap, I think, or something like that.
Really?
And it was like, right, okay, you've had your minute of fame. Now you're welcome to the touring car. So I got hit by Plato and Matt Neal and everyone else who thought I was being a bit cocky at the time. So. But no, it was good. It was a good experience.
Yeah, especially it's funny you mentioned the first race, because how brilliant that was when you crossed the line, you had the door open. That's what touring cars is about.
Yeah, I'll never forget that first race. That was one of my good moments. I mean, out dragging Ingram to the line and beating him by sort of 8 thousandths or something right at the end. But I also remember coming on the radio and I was like, I've just passed Tarkington, like screaming down the radio like while I'm coming past him on the main straight. And then it was tricky because it started to rain again, and then the car got a bit slippy and sliding, and then it dried again. And it was a real good race, and I think, if I'm honest, me celebrating and just losing my head like that, I think is where the fans and the media and the marshals loved it, because I think that's what they're there for. And I've been there as a fan, and you see something happen, or you see someone come round at the end of a race. Even in a support race, like when I was on the other side of the fence watching, and you see someone waving and appreciating the people that have been there, and when the next race, you sort of keep an eye on them and think, oh, that's, whether they're 10th or whether they're first or whatever, you tend to warm to them sort of people. And I don't know if you saw, I put out a video on Facebook the other day about coming around the last corner at Silverstone.
Oh, that's amazing. That's honestly brilliant, and everyone's cheering, and it's great.
Honestly, it puts the hairs on the back of my neck up when I've watched it like time and time again, and to hear the crowd go like that. I mean, that is what I live for, and I'm so gutted I didn't have it this year. And I just honestly, you can't imagine how much I really want it back now this year. And because imagine if it gets to this year and this is my last year of touring car, for sponsors or whatever, and I've been in it 1 year with the fans and then 2 years without them, and then
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
Uh, I just wouldn't be able to understand that and compute that. So I really do hope that we can have fans back.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously you started racing, you obviously got, like you say, with the Ginettas. Where did you originally start? How did you get into motorsport? Where did it begin?
Place called Buckmore Park, which is a go-kart track in Chatham. I went up there and had a little go-karting into a race, which was like it was a championship race, but it was like over 6 months. They do one a month, if you like, just local stuff. And the one that I went into was the final round of the season, and I ended up winning it. And so I thought, oh, well, that's all right. And it was their best championship that they'd done at Buckmore Park. It's like they rated them like 5 stars, 4 stars, whatever. So I went back and done that championship next year, and I won it. And I didn't realise, but that championship was a thing called Sodi World Series. And the Sodi World Series is all the hire carts from around the world.
Yeah.
So I got into that, and obviously I won the championship, and I didn't realise, but I won the British championship because I won 8 races, or I can't remember how it worked now, 8 races, 8 holes or whatever. Then I got the most points across England from all the other drivers that was in there. So I won that, and we've done a bit of endurance stuff. Me, Piers Pryor, who races F4 now, and a couple of others. Ben Green, raced with him. It was quite a few of us actually that come out of there, and went out to France, and Buckmore Park said, "Do you want to go out there to the World Finals?" So we all went out. Again, Piers Pryor was super quick at the time, but he was a lot lighter than me. And then when we went to the World Finals, we were in the same cart with the same weight, and I ended up a few tenths quicker than him.
Yeah.
Which was like, then I thought, wow, hold on a minute, we've got something here, because I really rate Piers. So it went from there, and then we come back, and I gave it a real good battle out there against the Italians, because they normally clean up out there. And then I come back, and then I done the Henry Surtees Foundation, and there's some great names in that, and Ben Barnacle, and all these great go-karting names. And I ended up coming from 21st to second overall, won the heavyweights,
Really?
fastest lap of the event, and ended up with 3 Henry Surtees Foundation trophies, which are,
That's brilliant.
very prestigious to me. And it went from there, and that's when Ben Hyland then got, I done a competition called the Want to Race competition. I didn't win it, but from what I'd learned and how I adapted myself and how I applied myself, Ben took a bit of a gamble on me and put me in the car. And, they were a great team, and we went on to win pretty much everything, and I was racing against a guy called Phil Ingram. And the year before, he done Ginetta GRDC, they called it back then, which was like entry level, people that have never raced in a season before. And he won 8 races, 8 poles, 8 fastest laps. He'd never not won, and he's an engineer for, he was an engineer for Formula E, Jaguar Formula E, and he still is now, I think. And so when I turned up we decided to skip that GRDC and go straight in at the second year. And when I turned up there against Phil Ingram, I was thinking, oh, here we go, as if I'm ever going to beat this guy. And out-qualified him on the first race weekend by 7 tenths. So we knew straight away that we must have had something in the tank then.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. What advice would you give to anyone wanting to get into racing but not really sure where to start? Or
I would definitely do what the route I done. I wouldn't go spending thousands and thousands of pounds on go-karting. I'm sort of mentoring a guy called Josh Poulin at the moment, and he asked me this question a few years back, and I said, you can do up to 100 grand in go-karting, and pretty much have nothing at the end of it. But I would suggest learn the racecraft and the skills like I did for £100 a month at your local go-kart track, and get out there when it's raining on slicks. Really start understanding what a car can do and a go-kart can do, and you really do learn your lines and stuff like that. And then as soon as you're ready and you've got a bit of budget and putting yourself in a shop window and getting some sponsors on board, is then straight into cars. Whether that's Ginetta Juniors, $100,000 sponsorship level, or a GRDC level in a Ginetta at $30,000. It's irrelevant. You're in a car, you're learning, and then you've got the ladder to go that way. And whether you choose Ginetta, or you choose Porsches, or you choose minis, whatever, you've got a ladder and a goal to keep stepping, and that's what I would say. And just keep, the most important part is keeping relevant and keeping yourself in the shop window. You've got to be the all-round package now. Like I keep saying it time and time again, like it's no good being outright ballistically fast and being the fastest person on the planet, because that's not going to get you to where you are. You need to be the full package these days, and unfortunately that's the way the world is.
Yeah, obviously, as you know, as a driver, how important sponsorship is. What advice would you give to anyone wanting to get sponsors? How do you do it?
I've been lucky. I mean, like I say, I've been at the right place at the right time. I've worn my emotion on my sleeve, and I've been very lucky with the fans and the media. And I'm a character. I've got that little bit of cheeky chappy, like, I suppose, whatever you call it, and people warm to you. And the thing is, and if you can get that and you can keep building and you keep, you're a likeable guy, you keep putting yourself in front of people, and people are going to take a punt on you. But you've also got to do the business as well. Social media is a big part of it. Are we still there?
Yeah, yeah. There you go. You're back.
Social media is a big part of it, and and keeping relevant, keeping out there, keeping in touch with people, and keeping updated, and the way you apply yourself, and and that's what brands. I'm the brand ambassador of 2 large companies at the moment, and I've got a big large company that have got in touch, and they want to take me on globally. So I must be doing something right out there. Do you know what I mean? So fingers crossed, and you just got to work so hard and believe in your dreams. This is the stuff I've dreamt of, and now it's just getting bigger and better and better. So I'm never gonna give up.
Good. Obviously, 2019, you made a big jump to British touring cars. When did you start talking to Tony Gillam and Team Hard about this deal that got you on the grid?
We won the 55 championship, and I'll be honest with you, I was talking to James from Porsche, pretty much like we were done deal. We were talking. Tom Oliphant was my coach in 17 and 18. Great coach, got me to 2 championship wins, and he had raced out in the Middle East in Porsche with Redline Racing. And he said to me, like, that's probably the next step, Pro-Am. We could have gone to Pro-Am and earned a few quid, probably, because the prize money is great with Porsche, and you win a Porsche and stuff like that at the end of it. And it was definitely the right step. So we went to Silverstone and done the test in Porsche. I had a guy called Jamie Orton, who was my pro, teaching me, was my pro that day, who I was given. And I think on my first lap, I was only 2 tenths off of him in a Porsche, and
Really?
racing for. So we knew that I was there or thereabouts in Porsche straight away. So we decided that that's what we were going to do, and signed a deal. And then Tony rang me. I went on holiday to Spain, and I was out in Spain, and Tony, I got his phone call, and it was like Tony Gillam, and I was like, "Oh, you all right, mate? How's it going?" And I'd obviously heard of Tony from Ginetta days, and I'd done a race, I think it was called Into the Night race, with Team Hard.
Yeah.
And he basically said to me, look, he said, what are you doing? I said, I'm doing Porsche. He said, do you want to do a touring car? And I laughed at him at first, and I was like, nah. And he's like, no, seriously, like, look, what, we can do it for this, and we can help you, and you're. He could see the character, and that's the good thing about Tony. Tony knows who to put in the car, when to put him in, and he has been a massive feeder of British touring car and people talent, like Jake Hill and like all the people, Mike Bushell, Mike Epps, all these guys that have come into touring car, Bobby Thompson, like so many people have been in the Team I Camp, and he's gone on and he's brought sponsors, like Clever Baggers, for instance, my biggest sponsor this year, that come from Tony Gillam. And
really, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, Tony had Clever Baggers in 2019 as a team sponsor, and they done the bit with the team, and I think they still done a little bit in 2020. I think they were doing some bags and stuff for Team Hardsteel, but they chose me at the end of 19 that they wanted to do a driver instead of a team.
Yeah,
and Tony has been absolutely fine with that and let it go, and this is why I think me and Tony are still really good mates to this day, because and one day I will be back there, I'm sure, with Tony and the family, because I really enjoyed my time there, and it was good because the family vibe, and I'm very family orientated. So
yeah, absolutely. What was it like the first time going out in a British touring car?
Scary, to be fair. Touring cars are notoriously difficult to drive, and for any, you look at any driver that's come to get in them, and some quality drivers, people like Mark Blundell, have got in and struggled because they're such a difficult animal to drive. Like 400 horsepower front wheel drive cars. It's completely opposite to the GT4 Ginetta with aero rear wheel drive car that I had to adapt to, and it is hard. You've got a thing called bump steer on the cars, which is, in layman terms, sort of steer the car from the rear of the car under compression. And that takes a little bit of getting used to, because you feel like you're in a flat slide and you start oversteering, but it's just the car settling down on the rear. And the Honda is very, very, very nervous and very touchy with that, literally a millimetre change here or there, and the car characteristics all over the place. So it's very sensitive, and yeah, it's a difficult car to drive. So. But because I had no experience with any other cars apart from Ginettas, I just got in it and drove it. And I think that was why it was easier for me than someone like Mark Blundell, who's come from high, fast cars,
of course,
good brakes and aero, to get into a car like that and adapt to it. For me, I didn't know any different. So that's why I would say it's difficult. And for new drivers on the grid this year, or drivers returning, again, the cars have evolved so much. It would be difficult for them straight away to jump back in. People like Aaron Smith and Geddy and people like that, it's going to be tough. And but they'll pick it up and they'll run with it. So it's just a big learning curve. Depends how much testing you do as well. You've just got to get laps in these cars now.
And what were your highlights of the 2019 season?
For 2019, the highlight, obviously, the first race weekend. That was amazing. In getting 12th, my first ever race. The other highlight in 19 was coming P9, and that was the highest finish I had in 19. And jumping out of the car, and the first person to grab me and celebrate was Jason Plato, and it was a little bit surreal. And Jack Goff won the race, and Team Hard, like, it was just
that was a brilliant race.
It was crazy, man. And I'd say in 2020 with BTC, definitely Thruxton, running P7 was great, and holding my own against two champions. Shame I got a punch on the last lap. But that was by far the best weekend, and obviously winning the Jack Sears Championship. I mean, there's so many races this year I could have pushed forward in and been comfortably inside the top 10, but I just had one eye on that trophy, and that's all that mattered to me. And it was a very mature driven season, if I'd say so myself, because I just had eyes on the price, and drove this season exactly how I needed to drive it.
Yeah, absolutely. So when did you start talking with BTC Racing about coming and joining, and how did that come about?
Well, I'll be honest. There was a bit of an up and a down season, really. Obviously, I had 7 DNFs or 8 DNFs throughout the season, and 7 in the bounce, I think, at one point. And it was tough for me because I was in the trenches, and I had to pull myself out of there and come back and deliver, which was tough. And reliability is a big key when you're talking big numbers of sponsorship and letting sponsors down and seeing you in the pits, and it's not great for your sponsors and your team. And it was a hard decision. So Steve Dudman asked me about re-signing. There was a bit of internal politics at the time as well, and I wasn't so sure. I was talking to other teams. I had a lot of offers on the table. I think I had 8 offers from different teams. So it was looking good that I was going to be on the grid somewhere. And then a lot of stuff's happened at BTC Racing. There's been a massive change around the management. And that's given me the confidence to keep talking with Steve. And my ambition was always to stay at BTC Racing, but there was just a few changes and stuff that we needed to make. And we've done that. And Josh Cook was a big part of me staying there. Me and him have got this new bromance that's gone on, and he's really taken me to another level. And I think if we can carry on working in that way in 2021, for sure he's going to be a title challenger, and it looks good for me in 2022 that I can really go out and try and win the independence title.
Yeah, definitely. It seems Josh Cook has really helped you with obviously like you say, staying on the grid, but also your racecraft. I'm sure you've learnt lots from him.
Yeah, I mean the guy is just phenomenal. He's a lot younger than me, and he's such a wise head on young shoulders. He's a true professional. He keeps himself in great shape. He's flies under the radar. He doesn't, he's not like me out there and in your face and stuff. But as soon as that crash helmet goes on, trust me, we're both dedicated to what we do. We know what the job is there to do, and we're just a great pairing. And teams have come and offered to take us both because they can see the dynamics there. And I think it's very, very rare you get on the British Touring Car grid 2 drivers that respect each other like we do. So I think that's going to be a key part in involving and going forward with each other. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're obviously driving the Honda Civic Type R, the FK8, the slightly newer Honda. How's that compared to the Volkswagen?
Yeah, I mean, it's a newer car. I mean, the Volkswagen was getting a bit tired, if I'm honest. And Tony would openly admit that, and that's why he's gone to the Cupras this year. He knew that it was getting to the end of its longevity, especially with new cars coming in. Look at Accelerate this year, and the new Ford Focus. I mean, as soon as you build these new cars, they're just out of the traps like a rocket. And that was getting into the Honda. The brakes were just amazing. Like, you could brake so much later. And the Neil Brown engine was a good engine. It took me a little while to adapt to it. But again, it was just the whole car it was just so much, go into a slide and you could just go, oh, well, collect it up, where the Passat was more snap into it, and you never knew quite what you were expecting. But with that, you can just go in, pitch it in, there's a bit of a slide, pick it up and go. And it's just a real nice car to drive. But don't get me wrong, the FK8 is if you start misbehaving with it, it will try and kill you straight away. So it's good when it behaves, and it's not so good when it doesn't behave. So
20 season, you obviously moved to BTC. Was the Honda one of the reasons you moved to the team?
Yeah, I mean, I was sat at the top of Detling Hill. I had a Ford Focus ST package with Motorbase in one hand, and
Really?
I had the Honda in the other hand. And I'd just come out of Motorbase with David Bartram, who I think's a great guy, and I'm sad to see him sell the team and move away. But he's a top bloke, and I really wish that I would have. Taken more time to look across the board. But for me, as soon as Steve Dudman offered me a drive, basically that Honda, I knew that Dan Camish had missed out on the championship the year before by the last lap, and I knew that Josh and Tom Chilton were going there. And I thought, well, do you know what? This is probably my best chance to learn and be in probably the best car on the grid, or one of the best cars on the grid. And I didn't know what the Focus was going to be like.
Yeah.
In hindsight, for 2020, would I have wished I was in a Ford Focus instead of a Honda this year? Probably yes. Because of the way it come out of the box, and we had quite a lot of niggles early on with the engine and stuff like that, and obviously the DNFs that I had with the engine. So probably yes, I probably would have been preferred to be in the Focus for 2020. But
Obviously, we'll start rounding up pretty soon. Thank you very much for coming on. Just to finish, a look to next season. It's going to be another brilliant season, I think.
yeah, I mean, a lot of new drivers coming in, isn't there? I don't know if people like Bobby Thompson or Senna Proctor or Chris Smiley or all these people. I don't even know. The seats are filling up. I think it's going to be a real good season.
Who do you think will be up there in the title fight? Obviously, we don't know all the announcements yet, but obviously Sutton's coming back. You'd think Turkington is going to come back and try and take that title of Ash.
Yeah, I mean Sutton, Camish, and Turks, but I think you're going to see Josh Cook definitely there, and I think you might see Jake Hill knocking on the door. I think you might see there's going to be a few more this year. Definitely getting up there, and Rory Butcher, I rate him very highly. He's a good friend of mine, and I think. Yeah, I mean, you never know. Turks, Sutton, and Camish might have a few people going for their jugulars this year. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, like I say, thank you very much for coming on and getting involved. It's been great to chat with you.
Yeah, no worries, mate. Yeah, cheers.
Yeah, and obviously, if I don't speak to you before, have a great start to the season and best of luck.
I'm sure we will, mate. I'm sure we will.
All right, then. Thank you very much. See you soon.
See you, mate.